Tonight, we'd like to present another installment in our ongoing series, Less Than Classic Theater.
Once again, we uncover a long-lost literary treasure and examine it to discover it was probably lost for a very good reason.
Tonight we present a reading of Reginald Thackeray's 1955 novel, The Man Who Wrote Bad Erotica.
A 1955 Book of the Month Club selection for about 45 minutes. It was an unqualified disaster.
However, it did sell slightly better than Thackeray's previous book, Dysentery, A Literary History.
And now, The Man Who Wrote Bad Erotica, Chapter 1.
Colin Crossley wrote Erotica.
It was bad.
Very bad.
It wasn't that Colin Crossley was a bad writer, per se. His technique was all right, I guess. He could spell well. Some of his choices were bold and unexpected, and some of his wording could even border on elegant at times. The fault lay not with the craft. The problem was his genre.
Colin Crossley worked very hard at creating erotic fiction, the kind that would arouse in the reader a torrent of emotion and lust. And his tale stings would heave. Breath would grow heavy. Pulses quicken. But nothing he wrote ever was considered erotic by anyone.
Ever.
Nothing.
He had already written hundreds of volumes, ghastly tomes, with titles like
The Scarlet Radish.
And?
Gazelles in Heat.
And?
Lily, the story of a lamb.
Colin found in language something with it which excited him. Words came to him in wicked torrents. There were times he'd be walking down the street when suddenly and without warning he would convulse in wild spasms of literary inspiration. He would dive headfirst into a wastebasket looking for something, anything, a scrap of paper on which to collect the words as they entered his brain.
It was language which was truly Colin Crossley's mistress. In the words themselves, he found what moved and excited him, regardless of their outward meaning.
Words like
regalia.
And
mucilage.
And
ichthyologist.
He was a very strange man.
A selection from Colin Crossley's opus, Sister of Chastity, A Nun's Tale.
Father Ambrose looked across the empty width of the chapel. The haze of the incense hung in the air like a wet fur rug. A rug of maybe bear, maybe wolfskin, but definitely wet. Wet and rancid and hanging in the air. Maybe on a line. Or maybe from some hooks. But that was what the smoke was like.
He looked to the smoke and caught a glimpse of Sister Agnes kneeling in prayer. He thought of nothing but Sister Agnes and what secrets she hid beneath her habit.
Probably nothing special, he thought, and went back to polishing the brass. The smoke still hung like a wet fur rug.
Wolfskin, probably. Maybe bear.
Chapter 2.
Colin Crossley sold his books.
Entirely self-published and hand-stapled.
Exclusively at Epstein's News and Grocery, a dusty dark spot somewhere deep on East 73rd Street.
Well, sold would be entirely inaccurate. That is, he attempted to sell them. The current Epstein had inherited his business from Epstein Sr., who had an affinity for human kindness in all of its various stripes. As he turned over the keys to his son on his deathbed, he told him,
"Be good to Mr. Crossley."
So he was.
To interject here, for the next 400 pages or so, Thackeray expounds on the relationship between Crossley and the one person who ever bought any of his books, one Penelope Ashworthy.
You would think this unlikely romance would be interesting.
You would be wrong.
And so we condense.
Chapter 4.
Penelope, what first led you to my writing?
The 42, boss.
Chapter 7.
My work is my dignity.
He caressed the back of her knuckles with a tenderness he usually reserved for slicing cantaloupe.
Chapter 17.
When you write, I read. And when I read, I am an antelope.
Well, Mr. Crossley, I have here the results of your lab test.
Give it to me straight, Doctor.
Well, all I can say is...
Chapter 97.
Do you take this woman?
What?
Chapter
Do you take this man?
Probably not.
Chapter 203.
Toothbrush.
I was looking for my dignity.
Chapter 518.
Penelope, I love you.
I bet you say that to all the squirrels.
Chapter 6. The sink drains.
Two whack jobs find each other.
And all is right with the world.
The end.
Thank